Hello, everyone. What is going on? This is the Unfound live show for March 25th of 2024. Almost 3 months into this baby. Where has the time gone? And I've been up here in Pennsylvania for 3 weeks as of today. And I certainly don't know where that time has gone either. As you can see, maybe by the background, even though it's fogged out or blurred out or whatever they say it, maybe you can probably still tell that I am still here. We'll see how much longer I am here. But I have a fantastic show. You know me. I always bring it on Monday nights. I try to find topics that I think all of you will find interesting. And I think I'm gonna be talking about a very well-known disappearance that I don't think that I've ever commented on it publicly before. Pretty sure. So, and that disappearance would be Brianna Maitland. Of course, this is a disappearance that we've not yet featured on Unfound. I'm thinking it's sometime myself or assistant Emily reached out to her family, but I don't know how many interviews and media appearances they do these days, but I am going to be giving some analysis of her disappearance tonight. It's in the news because kind of a renewed effort. There's a new reward for information regarding Brianna's disappearance. This disappearance is like 20 years old now. So I'm going to be doing a little analysis of that tonight. Unfortunately, we have a very sad update about the disappearance of Riley Strain that I want to get into more than just tell you what the resolution was. But as for that, I want to analyze that quite a bit. I also want to talk about this professor who went missing and then was found deceased in Orlando and what might have happened there. Also on the agenda is the disappearance of this boy, Sebastian Rogers, who has been missing since February 25th. I think that he had Asperger's or maybe slightly autistic, something like that. And I'm going to be reading an article about him and doing some analysis on that as well. So I got a lot to cover in the next hour and 56 minutes. And of course, we got some Unfound news to go over as well. Some things that are going on this week and in the near future. Before I go any further, please give this live show, this video tonight on the Unfound YouTube channel, please give it a thumbs up. And if you're not yet a subscriber to this channel, please do so down in the bottom right-hand corner, if you could. If you are listening to this as a podcast on Tuesday, the March 26th or beyond, if you could write a nice review, a 5-star review on iTunes or wherever else, that would make my day or my evening or my night, however you want to put it. I would appreciate that. And if you'd like to support the content that we provide on this YouTube channel, on Facebook, and the discussion group on the page, on the website, theunfoundpodcast.com, and of course, everything that we do with the podcast every Friday. And in fact, of course, over the past month or so, we've had some like double episodes with the team episodes coming out on Mondays and then the regular episodes coming on Fridays. Please, 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 if you like what we're doing here, please support us through PayPal, paypal.me/Unfound Podcast, or patreon.com/Unfound Podcast, or hit the join button below my head here on YouTube. Or if you're watching here tonight, you can just hit the super chat button if you're on YouTube and support what we do that way as well. So let's see who is in the chat tonight. And just cover a couple boring things. And then I'm just going to jump into some of the news that I, of course, highlighted already in the first couple minutes of the show. Charlie, what's going on? I'm guessing I've not heard back from your mother. Is she back in the United States? She hasn't texted me or anything. Lori, how are you? Good to see you. Karen, Charlotte, I'll be talking about something connected to you, Charlotte, before the night is over. Emily, assistant Emily, what's going on? Hazel had a birthday. I think that was yesterday, right, Hazel? You had a birthday. Suzanne, Kathy, Facebook user. Hey, what's up, Jill? Good to see all of you. Emily is saying Brianna went missing 20 years ago on March 19th. Right, 20. We just passed the 20-year mark for Brianna. Charlene, hi, everyone. Hi, Ed. I hope everyone is doing good and having a great day today. It is now 1:05 a.m. in Tullamore, Ireland, but I wouldn't miss this awesome online show for anything. Look at you, Charlene. You know, I've seen over here in the United States, Ireland has kind of popped up in the news because I guess your prime minister quit or something. I guess it's kind of the United States version of a president, but not really the same thing. I saw that your prime minister just up and quit out of nowhere. Hello, Michael. What's going on? Good to see you tonight. Yes, it is. Yeah, hi, Charlene. She got back last night. I just spoke to her a moment ago. All right, so Diane got back. Sister Diane got back last night. And maybe she's getting over a jet lag. Maybe I will talk to her tomorrow, maybe Charlie. But I'm glad they got back in one piece. I hope they had a great time over there in Europe. Maybe I'll find out about that mañana. All right, just a couple things going on. Of course, I am still here. The weather, for the most part, has been pretty boring. It looked beautiful out there today. Did get up, I think, like to 60 degrees here in Western Pennsylvania, but it's really just been kind of a little bit of Groundhog Day, day after day. Somewhat nice weather, but not very warm until today. And one of the things that I've noticed about my dad's place, of course, he lives in a very nice place here. The only problem starts is when it's windy. If it's just cold out, if it's like 15 degrees out, but there's no wind, place is totally fine. But if the wind starts blowing, and he kind of lives on a little bit of a cliff here, and it faces west, so the wind is usually coming from that direction. When that wind hits this place, this is not a building that I would call airtight. It's, I guess, what I'm saying. And he has new windows in here and everything. But there is a difference between it being like 20 degrees out, no wind, and 20 degrees out and 20-mile-per-hour winds. It is a stark difference. I've really noticed that over the last 3 weeks. Because when I got here, we had some windy nights and everything. In this room, it gets chilly no matter what you do. But if it's not windy out, then this room is pretty okay. But I've really noticed that. And in that way, maybe it's like my condo down in Florida, which is not airtight at all either. And in fact, I worry if we ever do get hit by a head-on hurricane, I wonder if my sliding glass doors are going to hold. We shall see. So I'm still here. Haven't really done that much. I got to see my buddy Brad last week. He's really the only close friend who still lives in this area. We got together for wings. It was good to see him. And, you know, it's weird when you go back to your hometown, Leechburg, where we met, this place called the Bonfire. That it's kind of the place we usually meet, although that's not where we met when I was here back in December. But, you know, you walk in there, and being that it is where I grew up, and a lot of people who I grew up with still live in the area, or their parents or whoever, even though it's like 25 years ago or 26 years ago since I lived there. And to remind all of you, my dad does not live in that area anymore. He lives about an hour away. You never know who you're going to run into when you walk in there, and your eyes are kind of like, am I going to recognize anybody? And I really didn't. And Brad lives there, and he didn't recognize anybody either, even though it seemed to be two and doing some pretty good business there the middle of last week. What day was that? Was that Wednesday? Was that Thursday? Something like that. But we had a good time. Always good getting together with Brad. We talk music, we talk cars, we all talk just all sorts of stuff. And he's a great guy, and it's good to see him. And he did say that maybe he and his wife are planning on making a trip like to Florida maybe next year or something, and that would be really, really neat. Other than that, got together with my mother's godchild. Her name is Barbara. We got together with her and a friend of hers. My dad and I went, the four of us. We got together and we had dinner. What day was it? On Friday? Must have been Friday. It was a really good time. Good to see her. Had a good conversation. It was very busy at this place where we went. Pretty nice. So that's been about it. Not much of a social life up here. No trivia up here that I've gone to. No hanging out in any Starbucks or late night cafes. It just doesn't exist because really I'm just out here in the middle of nowhere. But I've been able to continue to do my singing up there at the clubhouse at night. It's coming along really well. So I'm really excited about that. So what is everybody saying here? Hello, Cherie. What's going on? Thank you for moderating tonight, Cherie. And Charlotte, I've got a lot of podcast checking up to do. Sorry, I've missed the last few. You don't have to apologize, Michael. They'll be there when you are ready. I realize everybody has their own lives to lead. The 80s. Hello. Well, hello, the 80s. I just want to say to you, the person called the 80s, thank you for being such a great decade for me. I appreciate it. Charlene says that, yes, you're correct about our prime minister. Should be an absolute mess once they start to decide on who is going to be the next one. Yeah, Charlotte. Hazel says, wind is my nemesis, girl. After living in windy Wellington, New Zealand for about 7 years, was such a relief to move to the warmer north of Auckland. Yeah, down there. The Kiwis, New Zealand. Corey Richards' mom, Riches. Yeah. Hello, Marty. Good to see you tonight. Marty coming in hot, buzzing the tower as Marty usually does. And you're welcome. The 80s. That's funny. Thank you. The 80s. Yeah, 80s was a good decade for sure. Hazel says, how are the boys? Yeah, Marty, I know you said yesterday your boys are sick. How are they doing today? And how are you feeling? And yes, make sure you hit that like button, hit the thumbs up button. All right, let's get right into the news. I don't want to tease too many of these things because I know that I put them in the title for the live show tonight. So I'm not going to be one of those people who waits until like the last half hour to get to it, as I've noticed other people do when they kind of hype things and then they wait. They want everybody to listen to everything else. That's what I'm going to do. Let's get right into this. Riley Strain. Very sadly, he was found deceased downriver from where, of course, he was last seen. Of course, he went out to that bar, got kicked out for some reason. He was on video, kind of stumbling around a little bit, had a bit of an interaction with a police officer. I think that also news popped up that he had interaction maybe with a couple, like near this bridge. He went missing, big mystery. And then just within the last couple of days, he was found in the river 8 miles downriver from where they believe he went in. I should say 8 miles downriver from where he was last seen. Let's just put it that way. First of all, before I get into any of this, I want to give a huge shout out to the group who minds were open wide enough to think, you know what, we may really have to go far downriver if we really want to do a good search for Riley. I give them all the credit in the world. Because like we've seen, I think our perception when it comes to these kinds of searches, they might go down a couple miles, and that's good. But whoever had the idea that guys or women, we got to go 5 miles down the river, 6, 7, 8 miles down. Thank you. You know, I don't know. I didn't know Riley. I don't know his family or anything else. But as a person who does pretty much nothing but read about disappearance news and searches that fail and everything else, great, fantastic job. Fantastic job. Because as I've said before, probably the disappearances, once again, my opinion, the disappearances that I believe are eventually the toughest to solve are the ones where it is believed a man or woman went into a flowing body of water and into a river that is wide and deep and fast. Those are surely the toughest ones because they could go anywhere. Now, a lot of times we're just guessing. Like Shane fell. I don't even know if it makes any sense that he went into the Mississippi River, but I don't know what really other realistic choices we have. We have Ben Archer was last seen right next to the Delaware River. Jake Lachalea's truck was seen parked over the Mississippi River. Of course, his mother believes it was staged. I'm not inclined to believe that. That doesn't affect if I'm going to help her or not. I'm always here to help. And there are certainly maybe, some other disappearances where we think it's very possible that somebody got swept downriver, even though there's not necessarily any proof of that. Maybe Kevin Newen, who you should know, I just spoke to the guest. Remember the guest who appeared, and he gave me some updated information. Not sure what to make of it. I am still inclined to believe that Kevin ended up in the river, that he had to pass between where the bar was and him walking home. And still sticking to that. So we know how these tough these searches can be. Yeah, a lot of times people are found in rivers, but how often can we point to a situation where a body is eventually found 8 miles down the river? My perception is that's pretty rare. And so that a group thought it was worth to go that far downriver, fantastic. Very sad. But we need more searches like this when it comes to rivers. And we also have to admit at the same time, it very well may be that 8 miles isn't enough in some of these situations. Because thinking back to Shane Fell's disappearance, I will have to say I don't specifically remember what they did in searching the Mississippi River at all. But here's what I can surely say. They didn't go searching 8 miles downriver. I know that pretty sure. Pretty sure. Jake Lachale and other disappearances, pretty sure they didn't look that far downriver. And had that not been done for Riley, he would still be missing. And it very well may be that there would still be people out there thinking that he got picked up by somebody or something like that. This is one of those kinds of disappearances where it is just so obvious to me what happened. But because the sensationalism that's been brought into it and the speculation by people who really don't know what they're talking about then totally clouds the issue. And then I come along, and this is all that I do, and I say the odds are very, 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 very high that he went into the river all by himself. And you get reactions like, well, Ed, how could you say that? Nobody would willing go into the river by himself. Yeah, except for all the examples we know where that exactly happened. Except for that, I continue to be confused why so many people want to default to theories that are the least likely. Whereas really him going into the river by himself was certainly the most likely. So it's very sad. And as I was, I think it was Cherie and I going back and forth, and I think a couple other people says since last Monday after it was revealed that Riley was deceased. What upsets me the most, maybe it was with you too, Marty. You and I had a back and forth about this as well a couple days ago. What upsets me the most is that it's bad enough something like the smiley face killer theory, I call it a hoax, got accepted into the true crime community and people who take an interest in this. It's bad enough that people would continue to push and push and push that, even though it's totally outrageous. The worst part about it is it takes everybody from the real issue. And that is teenage drinking, young people drinking to the point that they don't know what they're doing, and killing themselves by accident. What I think about between like 2008, my perception when the smiley face killer hoax got started to this point, what I think about when I read a disappearance and a death about Riley Strain is I start wondering how many kids would still be alive if that hoax had never gotten started. And instead, when these young people were showing up in bodies of water dead after partying and everything in the early 2000s, instead, had there been, as much as the smiley face killer hoax was known, instead, what would have happened if something, a marketing campaign or a public service announcement about young drinking and underage drinking and young people drinking to excess and everything else, what would have happened if that had gotten as popular as the smiley face killer hoax? Maybe we could have saved a few people, not everybody, but we might have been able to save 10 people, 10 young people, 20 young people, 30 young people, 100 young people. Instead, too many people wanted to go with their idiotic creative minds, and since the part of our minds that just kind of spins off into the universe when it comes to theories and everything, and they come up with that idea. And it's very shameful. So many police officers supported that, pushed it, all for the gain, for their own fame, so they can get on some TV show, get to speak to people, get in front of a microphone and everything else. It's disgusting. And who paid for it? These young people who drank to excess and died. Whereas if that hoax had just been put to rest even at the point that it started, maybe things might have been different. It's disgusting. If you ever want to know, if you ever want to get to the core of me and why I am the way I am, and why I guess I would say when it comes to my theories, they're somewhat boring. And we're going to get maybe into that with Brianna Maitland, maybe. I don't know if it's boring or not, but it's this. Because when you get drawn away, when you get pulled away by these kinds of issues, theories that have no basis in fact at all we're doing is setting up more people disappearing, more people dying, more people committing suicide, more people being murdered, on and on and on. This is no different than any, as I tried to talk about last week or the week before, this is no different than any other type of science. What if we were to say that cancer really isn't caused by cells mutating in your body? No, it's caused by some alien race that is beaming something from a distant galaxy, and that's what's causing your cancer. How often do you think, would we be making any headway regarding cancer? No, we wouldn't. Or for any other disease. What if we still believed that crops, we would have great crops for the next growing season if we sacrificed a virgin to a volcano? Where would we be? This is how I feel about to these people who come up with all these sort of crazy theories, nothing based in fact, not based on statistics, nothing. They just think it because either they feel that way or it gets them attention. I hate it. And this is not just in the true crime community. We could do this in all sorts of different aspects of American culture or whatever else. In sports, in politics, in movies, everything else. It's disgusting. So I feel horrible for Riley. What I would also say, and I know that, I still insist Riley maybe needed some better friends. Obviously he's an adult. Adults have to take responsibility for their actions, whether it very well could have easily been, I guess, a different situation. Riley could have gotten into a car, drink and drive, and killed somebody, and he lived, and he would have to take responsibility for that. That's what it means to be an adult. Got to take responsibility. I still insist he needed some better friends as well. So let's see what everybody is saying here. Still shocked, Marty says, about 8 miles away. Rockford says that you have a brother moving to Wellington. Wow. Okay, so small world, Rockford. Emily says, earlier I listened to the 911 call. The man that found Riley Strain while at work. The man said he was face down. He had to pull a log off his head to make sure it was an actual body. All right, so somebody was alert. 8 miles. So it might have been found by accident now that I'm reading what Emily is writing. Cajun Navy. Sure, yeah, what a fan. Just only in the United States, Sheree. Yeah, rough. Emily says it was sad. The man even mentioned that he thought it was Riley and described what he had on. Yeah. Latchley, Marty says, case, they definitely didn't look enough. Hazel says, well, Riley's death is heartbreaking. Saving grace is that he was found relatively quickly. Family can take him home. The pain of forever searching must be unbearable. Yeah. It's bittersweet is the only kind of word we have in the English language. But there's certainly nothing sweet about it. It's certainly bitter. It's bitter, but like I said, I'm not sure there is a word. Maybe in German or something they have the word Schadenfreude, which is something totally different. I just don't have an English word to encapsulate these families who find their loved ones deceased. They get what they want, but they don't get what they want. There's just no one word that really captures that in the English language. For Shane, they searched the land near where Shane wrecked, but not the Mississippi. Kathy, thank you. Shane fell. Young men who are out at the bars will choose secluded spots to relieve themselves, whether in cities or burbs or rural areas. It will often be near a body water. 98.9% of the time, it's no big deal. You're right. Yeah, it's me doing this hundreds of times. That's right, exactly. Thank you. Hazel right, Ed. I've never given a second to that smiley face theory rumor. I saw a few people making reference to it on forums, but I don't even read what they say, let alone look into it further. Can't even begin to tell you how many people have done shows on that and really seriously considering it. People love attention, Marty says. More people have made a living off conspiracy theories like that, Ed. Some people are just hungry for they are. We can debate the merits of PR campaigns around behavior. In my opinion, you are the type who can handle his business or you're a walking risk. There's no debate. However, that methodology is harmful. Yeah, I still don't think it would. I just don't want things to be described in a way that they aren't. All right, that's all I want. I just want people to be told the truth about these things, and because like I still insist that if enough young people knew, if they took the smiley face killer hoax seriously, then they're thinking, all right, well, we go out in a bar, all we really have to do is make sure that nobody's following us. Well, that doesn't solve the problem, because they themselves are their worst enemies, not somebody out there who doesn't exist. So Riley Strain, of course, got a lot of attention, and not the ending we wanted, but I think most people are not surprised. Hello, Ferry. What is going on tonight? Good to see you. All right, let's go on to this. Once again, I don't want to tease this to anybody, so I'm just going to get right into it, and that is the disappearance of Brianna Maitland. I will say once again, I do not believe, at least publicly, I'm pretty sure, I know this is kind of amazing, even though it's a fairly well-known disappearance, kind of like Mari or Brian Schaefer, mainly because of the situation her car was in when it was found. But I really don't think that I've ever voiced ever done any analysis on it or voiced my opinion. I know maybe through email with some of you, maybe I've talked about it, but I don't think I've ever talked about it on a live show. I think I would remember. Somebody's probably going to go back and try to do a search that way, and maybe they're going to find like, in 2018 you talked about it. If I did, I just don't remember. Brianna Maitland. So here's an article that was recently written, and for all of you maybe who aren't sure about some of the details, I did print out, copy over just some of the general facts of her disappearance. Even though, as you probably suspect, a lot of podcasts have been done, TV shows, everything else. It's really not what we're doing here tonight. Although eventually maybe we will cover her disappearance in depth on the podcast. We shall see. All right. In Williston, Vermont, on the 20th anniversary of her disappearance, the FBI announced a reward of up to $40,000 in an effort to help solve the case of Brianna Maitland. In 2004, Maitland, then 17, so she would be 37 now, disappeared after leaving her job at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, Vermont. Her green 1985 Oldsmobile 88, remember Oldsmobiles, was later found backed into an abandoned building not far from the restaurant. Police have investigated multiple leads in the years that followed, but never found her. They have said they believe she was the victim of foul play, and as I continue to say, police opinion on such things don't mean much to me. Tuesday marked 20 years since Maitland vanished, and Vermont State Police and the FBI held a news briefing to announce the reward in the case as part of an effort to get new tips. Certainly, we will hear from people that have reported information in the past. We will vet it again. At some point, you have to put information that's been vetted numerous times, put it aside. There's a number of persons of interest in this case that, again, have been looked at for the whole 2 decades. Some we have ruled out, some we haven't, said Vermont State Police. Vermont State Police Colonel Matt Birmingham said investigators are still thinking about Maitland and her family and working diligently to solve the case. It is not a cold case. It's an unsolved case. Police were not able to share with us what they think happened to Maitland, but they say they continue to get tips on a weekly basis, and they say no tip is too small, and they follow up on all information they receive. If you can help investigators, call 1-800-CALL-FBI, CALL-FBI, or the Vermont State Police tip hotline at 1-844-84-VTIPS. All right, so now I'm going to read not the entire description, but part of the description that is posted on the Charlie Project. Brianna was last seen at her dishwashing job at the Black Lantern Inn in Montgomery, Vermont between 11:20 p.m. and midnight on March 19th of 2004. Her coworkers asked her to have dinner with them, but she declined because she was tired and had to get up early to go to her second job as a waitress in St. Albans, Vermont. She left work and was supposed to go home to where she lived with a friend in Sheldon, Vermont. She never arrived, and her friend assumed she had moved back in with her parents. It's an odd thing to think. I'll get to that. With her parents and brother in East Franklin, Vermont. The friend called Brianna's parents on March 23rd and found out Brianna wasn't there and reported her missing. Brianna's vehicle, a pale green four-door 1985 Oldsmobile sedan, was found abandoned on March 20th off East Berkshire Road in Route 118 across Dutch Burn Farm Road, about a mile outside of Montgomery. And you should know, if you want to go to that location on Google Maps, you can, but the building is no longer there. It was there until actually very recently, within the last couple of years, but it's not there anymore. So if you want to see it on Google Maps on Street View, you will have to go back to an older Street View from maybe 2015 or 2014 to actually see the building. Just keep that in mind. There's just like a bunch of grass there and everything. Now, what's also, and I have to be honest, I don't think I've ever done a Street View for a disappearance until preparing for this live show. And it's right there on that main road there. Building is like feet away from the building, from the road, and her car was backed into it. I'll come back to that. It was parked partially inside an abandoned barn. I know that's what Megan wrote on the Charlie Project. That's not how I would describe it. 2 of Brianna's uncashed paychecks were found on the front seat of the car. She also left behind all her clothing, her medicine, driver's license, her makeup, and her contact lenses. Some of her belongings were strewn on the ground in front of the car. A woman's fleece jacket was found in a field near Brianna's car, but it apparently did not belong to her, which is interesting. The Oldsmobile had sustained minor damage. It had apparently backed into the building and punctured a hole in the wall. Investigators came to believe the accident may have been staged. A photograph of the vehicle as it was found is posted with this case summary. Now, what's not included in this, and like I said, this is not my attempt tonight, is not to do a total rundown step-by-step of her disappearance. Maybe we'll get to do that in the podcast. And if there's anybody listening to me either tonight on the live show, video, or as a podcast, if you know anybody in Brianna's family, I'd love to talk to them. There's no, I'm not trying to rope them into anything. I like to talk. Maybe I can give some insight or something. You're not locked into coming on Unfound and doing an interview. Certainly would love for you to do that. But let's just have a talk. Let's have a conversation. I'm easy to reach. unfoundpodcast@gmail.com. Anybody in Brianna's family, or maybe a good friend of hers that has a lot of great insight into what went on at the time. I'm always ready to talk. So, you can once again, unfoundpodcast@gmail.com if you want to reach me. And anything, at least to start, anything we talk about will be off the record. In fact, nobody even needs to know that we spoke. And I realize there's stories out there that like a boyfriend came by and the lights were on in the car or something, but you should know in the rundown that Megan wrote at the Charlie Project, that is not on there. What's interesting about this is the picture that was eventually taken of her car was taken just by some passerby who thought it was odd. The only reason we even have that picture as it is because somebody saw it and was like, well, that's really odd. That was not taken by the police. That wasn't taken by somebody in her family when they showed up. It was just taken by a passerby. And it was taken like, I think the very next day. So it wasn't, but my interpretation though, is that for a car that was backed into a building that was right along that road there, the car was there before anybody did about it for longer than you would expect. That is my perception. So I want to go back and just go over a couple things that were in here, and then maybe just a couple things that I noticed. What catches my eye, if this is correct, it's weird to me that her roommate, when Brianna didn't come home that night. The roommate, who was a woman, I guess, a girl, assumed that Brianna had moved back in with her parents. Well, would Brianna not have told her that? Were Brianna's clothes not there? Why would she think that she moved her parents? Were not Brianna's kind of her stuff still at this place, this apartment, wherever they were living together? I realize it's just one sentence, and I realize that, I'm a big fan of Megan and her website, and I realize Megan, though, gets some things wrong, and I'm sure there's some more context to this that has been explored, hopefully, somewhere on some show, somewhere on TV or podcast or whatever. Maybe I'm hoping that this has been resolved, but I also know that Megan doesn't print lies on her. So somewhere this was printed, somewhere somebody wrote this, and it's just weird to me. Her the friend who Brianna was living with said she thought she had moved back in with her parents and brother in East Franklin, Vermont. What, just in a day? It's the first thing that kind of catches my eye. That once again, it very well may be this was resolved somehow. Maybe the friend is saying, well, I got, that was what reported, but that's not really what I said. If that's the situation, then, maybe it's nothing. The other part about this, it is weird that a jacket was found in that field, but it didn't belong to Brianna. What are the odds of that? No. But I have to be honest, the biggest thing that caught my eye when I finally, and like I said, I don't think that I ever looked at the map or a street view of her disappearance. Even though I'm in the disappearance business, you would think this is something I would have done at least in my spare time. I don't think I ever did it because when I went to there, I was like, it's not what I expected. What's interesting to me is that if we're to believe that Brianna got in her car and was driving home, she would have been going kind of, let's just keep it easy, in a west direction. So going like this. And her vehicle, though, had backed into the building once again on the west side of the building. So I guess what I'm saying is if somebody ran her off the road, or she lost control, or she was drinking and driving, that none of this has been proven or alleged or anything else. She was on drugs. She fell asleep at the wheel. None of this has been alleged. All we know is her car was found backed into that building. But if she had done any of that, she would have hit the building on the east side of the building. So she's going along like this. The building's here. She knows, and everybody, first for you audio people, I'm sorry you can't see this, but so she's coming this way. She loses control, or somebody's after her and she loses control. She's going to hit the building on this side. The weird thing is the car was backed in on the opposite side. So there's no way that could happen. She's driving home and she gets run off the road and hit on that side. There's no way that could have happened. No way. Not physically possible. We talk, you've heard me talk about conceivable, possible, probable. Conceivable means it at least doesn't defy the laws of physics. Her being run off the road and her car hitting on the other side of the building defies the laws of physics. So there's that. And I see Hazel, we're going to get to the staging part, Hazel. So that was not something that I realized until I took a look at it yesterday, whenever it was, and started writing down some notes. So there's that. In addition, even though it says it once again in Megan's report on this, but I know many of you've seen the picture of her car up against that building. Megan is saying it was parked partially inside an abandoned barn. That's not how I would put it. the car was like, what would it be? The passenger side right corner was kind of up into the wall. And what I would say is that it was so much into the wall, it might have actually lifted the rear wheels off the ground to the point if somebody did hit it and then tried to drive away, the wheels wouldn't have been able getting any traction and the car would have been stuck there. That's kind of what it seems to me. I've never seen a picture to really be able to really tell one way or the other. You would have to see a picture on the other side. Of course, the picture that's taken is from the road. We would have to see a picture from the other side. And I've just not seen a picture like that. So I'm open to the idea that somebody, maybe Brianna, backed into that and then tried to pull away, but couldn't because the wheels were kind of like propped up, kind of jacked up. No, imagine if, you have a car that's rear wheel drive and somebody starts jacking the back end up on it to the point that the wheels aren't touching the ground anymore, where you're not going anywhere. That's what it kind of looks like with this. So I'm open to the idea that somebody maybe didn't mean to do that, but got the car stuck inadvertently. What also shows this, the car is really not damaged. Obviously, pull it away, yes, there would be some damage on the bumper and everything, but the car certainly would have been drivable. It wasn't like it's obvious that the car did not hit the building at even 10 miles an hour. I mean, that quarter panel, the right rear quarter panel that you can see, it's not even crumpled or anything. So it's like the car was just going a couple miles an hour and went into that wall. So once again, this would, even despite the physics I just went over, it kind of rules out the idea that she was forced off the road, whether she was going east or west, that spun her car around and she just happened to hit into that building. On top of the fact, if you look at that picture, if you look at the ground, it's not really messed up. It doesn't look like the car slid or sliding sideways or spinning tires or anything like that. And it does appear to me, my opinion, looking at the ground you can see in that one, the well-known picture, that you would see that. So there's that. Now I'm going to take a break and see what everybody is saying to this point. Valerie says, I missed a few weeks, been busy to watch now. All right, good to see you, Valerie. I am puzzled about the Brianna Maitland case. Yeah, I think everybody is, Emily. Although everybody, there are a lot of theories out there. I've never heard you mention Brianna Maitland. That would be since 2019, Kathy. Yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, hello, Hazel. Do you remember? I didn't realize she was only 17. That's it, Kathy. I watched the disappeared episodes. Was it a barn? It was a boarded up building. It wasn't being used for anything, Ferry. It had been I think it had been long abandoned. I don't know what it is. It might have been actually a house at one time, but nobody was living there or anything. I mean, it had been years and years gone by. And I don't know who owned it or anything. Dabbling in recreational drugs, I think, led to whatever occurred. Okay, Hazel. Finally able to be joined tonight. Well, there you are, Lisa. I was wondering. Emily, I agree with Hazel. Anytime someone is involved with drugs around others involved with drugs, you can't help but wonder if drugs were involved. Kathy Rockford says, I found the older disappeared episodes more informative and less agenda-driven compared to newer ones. Yes, they certainly changed in their tone. I have two, Kathy. They begin screening them in... Okay. Hi there, Kathy. Hazel, that's excellent. Watched all the last season, too. I think Patty Atkins was killed by her coworker. I'm not going to say his name. Marty, it's odd. Maybe there's a lot more to that story than letting the public know. Charlotte, from what I know of the case, Brianna kept her things in her car. Marty, oh, really, Charlotte? That would make sense why the roommate didn't say anything. The roommate was out of town visiting her sister, Jada said. The account on the Charlie Project isn't correct. She came back Monday and saw that Brianna hadn't been back. All right. So there's that explanation. Emily, maybe it would depend on the circumstances. Brianna didn't have time, anything at her place. I can see why she said that. Car was staged, Hazel says. Rockford says Maitland was doing a lot of couch surfing. Maybe her moving out was a reasonable assumption. What stands out to me was her mom's account of Brianna being fearful over an encounter earlier that day. And she had gotten beaten up by another girl at some point. Brianna stayed with different people sometimes. Her life was unstable. Hazel, yeah, Rockford, that's what I recall too. No real solid place. She stayed every single day and night. Yeah, I'm on team stage 2. Charlotte, Kathy, yes. That day she had had lunch with her mom and looked out the window and got very scared and left. I remember reading that. Charlotte, like Sydney West in San Francisco, she went on the Golden Gate Bridge, never seen again. Yes, I'm in agreement on the stage angle. Great to be here, Ed. Senior pictures tonight for my son. Congratulations to him. And Michelle, hello. Hi, Ed. Hello to you, Michelle. How are you? So, a lot of people talking about the situation being staged. Very possible. But then I start wondering if what was the person who staged it trying to make it look like? I agree. If you're going to say, well, they're trying to make it look like Brianna ran off the road and wrecked, I agree with you. And they did this by just touching that building at like 1 mile an hour. I mean, if you're going to stage a wreck, why didn't you really, really, really back into that building hard? And I'm not saying 50 miles an hour. I'm not even meaning 30, maybe 10 miles an hour, 15 miles an hour if you really, really want to do it. Instead, it seems like whoever did this, if it were staged, just kind of just nudged it against there and left it at that. I mean, I have to admit, why even bother? So I have to admit, I'm not going necessarily in a staged direction with this. I have to admit, because I will tell you what it looks like to me. And I know this is going to sound crazy and everything, but I have to admit, just looking at the scene, reading what I did, and I know there's stories about where the lights are on and everything. What first came to my mind is, are we sure that Brianna was not trying to, maybe she was on something, and she was actually trying to back the car behind the building and instead hit the building itself. And because of that, those wheels get propped up for the ground. She can't pull it away from there, and then she walks off. Now, why she would be able wanting to hide the car behind the building, I don't know. But on the other hand, why would anybody stay? I guess that's as good a question as why would anybody stage it? And I guess the other issue, as I've read, not on the Charlie Project, but just trying to educate myself as much as I can. It does seem that this all happened fairly quickly. That the car was up against that building like within an hour or something. And I read a story that somebody saw the car there at night, or the headlights were on or something. So I guess timeline wise, if she did go somewhere and something happened and somebody says, well, we're going to take her car over there and back it in there and make it look like she got into a car wreck or something, it seems like the timeline might be a little too tight for that. So then the next issue is, well, maybe she went out to her car that night. Somebody was waiting for her, jumped her, and stole her car. For example, maybe she got in her car and somebody was waiting in the back seat. She didn't lock it. Certainly possible. And then there's certainly possible. Still come back to the idea. As we know, I mean, some people do make cars disappear. And we know of some situations where people tried to make cars disappear. For example, going back to the Colonial Parkway murders, we know that whoever killed the first 2 women tried to first push the car into the river. When that didn't happen, they burn it. Remember that. So, there's that. And we've had a couple disappearances on Unfound. For example, Jeremy Burt, whose car was found way far away from where he lived, and it was burnt to a crisp. Remember that. And we have the disappearance of Nico Lisi, whose truck was parted out. Remember that. It just seems if this was staged, why would somebody stage it in such an obvious area that was so high profile that everybody would see it, which would then make it would really, people would really be able to narrow down, as it seems has been done, really able to narrow down when the car was put there. To the point that people are taking pictures of it. It seems like an odd choice. It seems like a high-risk choice to me, in contrast to just leaving her car in the parking lot where she was working and just abduct her right there and take her away in another car. Or do that and leave her car out in some abandoned road where it's going to take a little while before people find it. Once again, to disguise the timeline and put everything in a lot of flux. Leaving it right there, backing it into a very high-profile building right there seems like a bad choice. I realize, a lot of times we're talking about people who are not the brightest people, and we question their motives and everything else. But it just seems like the worst choice of all choices when you want to get away from something. Now, obviously, whoever did this, if it was staged and she was murdered, it has succeeded for the last 20 years. But there's no way somebody could have predicted that beforehand. If somebody was really looking to take Brianna or kidnap Brianna and kill Brianna, it seems to me that if you're planning this out, okay, we know where she's working, we're going to abduct her, we're going to take her car. Where does the idea of backing it into that building come in? If this was all planned, would somebody, if this was like more than one person, would not one of them said, surely we can do better than that? What if while we're doing this, somebody comes by and sees us doing it? So I have to admit, I realize why people think it's staged, because it's so odd. But I have to admit, that's not the direction I'm going. That's not that's not what strikes me at this point. And I realize there's a lot of information that I just can't cover tonight. And I hope one of these days, maybe we'll get the other cover Brianna Maitland's disappearance in depth. I realize other people have done so. I realize Disappeared has done so. But Unfound does it better than any of them. Yeah. So let me read some of these things. Thank you, Jade. I'm going to come back to you. Thank you. Yeah, Michelle. It reminds me of the Mara Murray disappearance. Well, Ferry, a lot of people have tried to connect Mara's and Brianna's disappearances. So you're not crazy, Ferry. Yeah, she dropped the okay. Michelle. Marty, maybe they were stupid teenagers, didn't know what they were doing. That very well could be. Then we used to have to start asking, though, Marty, though, if they were stupid teenagers, how they've gotten away with it for 20 years, with this being very high profile and everything else. You may very well be right, but then we have to start thinking, well, how exactly did they pull us off and not get caught? And really, except for like the man in Brianna's life and maybe a couple other people, there are not a lot of names out there. Brianna might not have been the one who left the car there. I get that, Charlotte. That certainly could be true, and that's what they're meaning by staged. Hazel, Ed, or maybe the person who disappeared or did what you described with the car trying to hide it. I guess maybe what you're saying is maybe somebody thought that they could back it into that building so nobody would find it. The problem is there wasn't an opening there. It wasn't like there was an opening there and somebody was trying to back it in and just cut it too close and hit the side like of a garage or something and said, oh, we got to get the hell out of here. There was no opening there. The only way they would have been able to hide it in the building is if they had gone really, really fast and gone right through that building And dare I say, that might have just collapsed the whole entire thing. So I reject the idea that somebody was trying to hide the car inside there. I totally reject that. Totally. We are at 150%. Yeah, 50%. Come on, we got to get to 100%. Where are you people? Give it a thumbs up. Your computer, your phone, your tablet. Thumbs up, please. Rockford, I don't think we're dealing with criminal masterminds. Imagine that. Bad staging would not be shocking. Also, the drugs and fight angles are interesting, but fairly normal type stuff. That's true. So maybe we could see a situation. She made arrangements to meet somebody there. Something breaks out. She tries to get away, backs her car into that building, and then they drag her out or something. Maybe there's that. But that wouldn't be staged. That would actually be Brianna doing it because she was trying to get away. That would not be staged. Fair, I think she got the car stuck and ran off into the field. I have to admit, Ferry, that right now that's the direction my head goes. Or possibly Brianna had parked there and was getting bothered. Yeah, tried to drive. Yep. There's Kathy. Great minds think alike. Jada, it's so desolate where she disappeared. It would have just made more sense to leave her car on the side of the road versus back into a house. I agree. That seems much simpler. Kathy, not Nico's truck, a truck he and his buddy stole in New York. An old guy owned it. Yeah, right. Thank you, Kathy. Rockford, what interests me are factors people outside the norm. What or who doesn't belong in this rural Vermont drama? Jade is saying she got off at 11:20 from work and the car was spotted at midnight. Like I said, it's a fairly tight timeline. I mean, I realize this was just a couple miles down from where she worked. So that widens the timeline up. It's still 40 minutes from the time she left to when the car was spotted. And I guess we just have to take for granted no other cars were seen there. No other people were seen there. So by the time midnight rolled around, anybody else, whether it was Brianna, her by herself, or 10 people, they were all gone. So that kind of narrows it down less than 40 minutes, maybe to 35 minutes, or 5 minutes to get there. So we're down to a half hour. Pretty tight. Emily, if she didn't mean to wreck the car and tried to walking away, she would have had about a 15-minute walk back. She is less than 2 miles from her job, right? Hazel, thanks for the reminder about tight timeline. Charlotte, I knew you might not believe in Israel Keys theories, but some people think Israel Keys might be involved in that case. I think, Charlotte, that I read something about that. And yeah, I know. I think by this time, most people know what I think about Israel Keys. But I think that they were able to rule him out. I think they were decidedly able to place him far away at that time, I think. Jada, Keys was ruled out as a suspect. There you go. Ferry, not sober. If she was high drunk, this could make some sense. I think she was trying to turn around. That girl really punched her hard. I don't believe Israel Keys. Yeah, she just gotten off of work, so it's likely she was high. Emily, if she had taken a drug right as she got into her car, I don't know if it would. I guess depends what the drug is, Emily. Hazel, yeah, a little weed to unwind. Acts quickly. She ain't thinking straight. Mara's sister thinks she got picked up and met with foul play. It's possible, but I always thought she died in the elements, being she was drunk. Yeah, Valerie, going back to Mara Murray. Yeah. All we're saying, I don't want to get into Mara Murray tonight. But yes, a lot of people have tried to make the connection between the two. I just don't see it. Emily, how far from the car did they search for Brianna? If she walked away and passed away from the elements, she would be able to be found. I'm not sure how much. I know they did look. And admittedly, to get to like the woods or something like that, it is a little bit of a walk. There's like a field there. There's a field on the other side. But certainly possible. Certainly possible for a 17-year-old to walk that far in the dark without anybody seeing her. Jada says, I believe they did a 7-mile radius in the original search, expanded into other areas. Yeah. See, that's the thing. Even though I've only ever been on one search in my life, as I did the math, how many disappearances ago, I kind of was that on, I know Kathy is going to, was that on the disappearance of Jamie Lee, where I went through all the math, how that all works out regarding square miles, and if it's a 1 mile radius, and how many square miles that is, and how many square feet or square yards or whatever else. I will tell you, I don't take a 7-mile radius search seriously at all. There is no way you can seriously 100% search a 7-mile radius area. That's 14 miles across. And you're telling me they searched every square foot of that? No way. Not to mention there's going to be private land. They're not allowed to go on and on and on. This is why I continue to say, as far as it concerns, and I know this sucks, any search beyond a 1-mile radius, like from a car or a truck or a house or something, is pretty much worthless. The number, the math, the odds, the numbers, the statistics, they get too crazy. I don't care if you have ATVs, dogs, drones, helicopters, the National Guard, whatever. Heat, the heat sensors or night vision or whatever. I don't care. Once you get beyond a mile radius, so that would mean a circle 2 miles across. It's too big of an area. You're not going to have enough people to really, really cover it the way you need to. So when it says, well, they did a 7-mile radius search, look at us. This, you know what I think of when I think of that? I think of people on Twitter. I think of people on Instagram, for example. You'll run across some account, and the Instagram account will have like 10,000 followers, but then the owner of the account is allegedly following like 10,000 people. Here's what I think I know. There is no way you can realistically follow 10,000 people on Instagram. You're going to miss a lot of pictures. You're going to miss a lot of videos. It's just not possible. In fact, I would say it's impossible to even really, really closely follow 100 people on Instagram or on Twitter or any of those kind of social media sites where that is kind of the thing. You can't do it. And so this is why I've always said a person who is following 1,000 people on Instagram or Twitter or whatever else is really following nobody. The numbers and everything, it's just not possible. It's kind of the same way I feel about when, they start bragging, well, man, we searched all this square miles. No, you didn't. Yeah, you flew over it. Yeah, you drove by it. You drove through it, but you didn't search it. It's just bragging. That just makes it sound like they're doing something. It's not quality. If I was a missing persons family, easy for me to talk. I'd rather know that a search group was going out there and say, you know what? We're going 1 mile in every direction from this car. We're going to hit every square foot, and we'll just have to hope for the best. And somebody's telling me, we're going to go out to 7 miles. I would automatically think this person is BSing me. But I also have 7.5 years of experience on this, and these families don't. But I've told them that. I've told some families that. I certainly told Jason Landry's father that. Kent, that I feel horrible, and I know this beliefs out there. Jason got picked up and everything else, but I'm telling him, any search a mile in any direction away from that car is pretty much useless. I don't care what the terrain is and everything else. So, let's see. So it's likely she was high. Emily says if they had searched 7 miles around her car, it seems they would have found her if she walked off. The problem is you can't do a quality search of in a 7-mile radius. You can't do it. You're not going to be able to gather enough people and everything else. That's just numbers. It's like maybe another example would be like the NFL when a player says, yeah, I just signed a contract 5 years for $100 million. No, you didn't. Those are just numbers. When you really start getting down to what the actual numbers are, it's really not a $100 million contract. It's like a $20 million contract. And then there are incentives and then this and then that and then that and that and that and that and that and that and that. And the odds of that person, that player collecting the $100 million, not going to happen. It's just numbers. It doesn't mean anything. Hazel, I recall you often saying, Ed, that areas can be searched over and over and yet still the remains can be found near where, yeah. Although it's not a disappearance that we featured on Unfound, the example I always give is Eric Pratt, Pracht. Almost covered his disappearance. Not quite. But what's interesting about that, if I can now reveal the story, maybe I've talked about it before, but I'll do it again. Talked to his parents a couple times. Liked them a lot. And we were on the verge of doing an interview. Then I don't know what happened. And they backed out. And I have to admit, at the time, I was a little disappointed. But what eventually, after Eric's remains were found, his mother did text me out of nowhere. And I don't remember exactly what she said, but it was very complimentary. And I really appreciate that. I really, really thank her. Even though they did let me down, I really wanted to have them on the podcast to help them out. But I remember talking to them as if it was yesterday. And what was this, 2019 or something? That they had told me, well, we searched this area and nothing was found. And of course, they were very suspicious of Eric's fiance's family and all these different things. And they kind of described this area that had been searched. And I remember it like it was yesterday. I told them, you need to go search that area again. And I think at the time they thought I was a little crazy. Eventually, after they did not appear on Unfound and eventually another search got it organized, guess what? They did search the area again and they found them. Now, why it got missed the first time around, I don't know. But that always sticks with me. I got that one right. I got it right. Even though I think probably a lot of searchers who maybe took part in the first one have said that Ed Densel guy, he doesn't know what the heck he's talking about. He's not here. He's only been on one search in his life. He doesn't know what he's talking about. Now, do I get things wrong? I do. And I think I've owned up to those as well. So when it comes to searches, you do it again, you do it again, you do it again, you do it again. Same area, 1 mile in all directions, because anything outside of that, just like I said, the math just doesn't add up. It's just too big. So we got a lot of people watching tonight. Once again, thumbs up, people, thumbs up. Yeah, still remains can be found near Wood Last Lane. Like I said, Eric Pratt. And unfortunately, very sadly, Eric committed suicide. The gun was found at his side, and it's believed because of the stress he was undergoing being an EMT. And, some things had gone on with his job that really, really got to him emotionally that I guess pushed him over the edge, as happens with a lot of people doing jobs like that. Searches off the missed remains. Yes, Jamie Lee. Boy, I got that one right. Thank you, Kathy. Hello, Mary. What's going on? I'm tuning in now. Catch replay from the beginning. Well, thank you, Mary. Good to see you tonight. Remember, Mary, give us a thumbs up, and everybody else. Hazel, everybody, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Mary says, any searching is good to do, of course, but I imagine some slight exaggeration goes on when describing the search in general. Yeah, absolutely. Exaggeration. It's a good word. Barely resisting on Otani jokes since you mentioned player contracts. Yeah, that is something, Rockford. I really enjoyed the assistant interviews. That was a good idea, Ed. Well, thank you, Valerie. We were due. We don't hold anything back here. There's no, I think that we are as transparent a podcast as exists in any genre anywhere. And I know how high of a quality these people who help me are. And I want all of you to see it as well. It's very important to me. Crystal Morrison, yeah. With her, of course, it took a while. And of course, she was missed because she was on private land. So we might be open to that idea with Brianna Maitland. I really don't know who owns all of the land around there or anything. But we know, and I realize there's some people out there who are still thinking that wasn't Brandon, who isn't Brandon Lawson. But trust me, those remains are going to be Brandon Lawson. And what happened? That area didn't get searched because it was private property. New owner takes over. People who are, of course, concerned about Brandon's disappearance go ask new owners. The owner says yes. They go on there and guess what? Remains are found. Imagine that. Which is, I think, also one that I think I got right. I think I said, yeah, I think he just walked off and they just haven't found him yet. He's in the area. Why so many people resist these ideas and want to go off to all these? I don't know. This is going back to Riley Strain. Well, he got picked up. This happened. The cop might have had something. The cop acted a little weird in that interaction. Come on. Yeah, Crystal. It wasn't Crystal. She was on private property. Yes. I agree that she possibly is on private land. MT. Hello, MT. What's going on? Good to see you tonight. And I always remember your analogy about trying to find a lost disc golf. Golf disc. And how easy it is to miss, but someone else really finds the disc while not finding their own. Exactly right. I'll go through this, given that I'm on this kick right at the second. I might as well do it on searches. The disc golf analogy that I've come up with, some of you might have heard it before, but many of you are new, is how is it possible I can go play disc golf tomorrow, throw a disc 250 feet, maybe on a little bit of a wooded course. There's some bushes down there. And I'm thinking of this course Maximo, where I live. It's known as a course where you lose a lot of discs. The disc lands down there, kind of goes out of sight, but it's only 250 feet away. It's not even the length of a football field. And you see it like turn and you think it goes into this bush. You go down there, you go through these bushes, you don't find it. The bushes, of course, are brown and green. Your disc is hot pink and you don't see it. 5 minutes, 10 minutes. And I've had this happen by myself. I've had this happen with other people. In fact, I can think of a tournament where I got docked 2 strokes for losing a disc in that there's no way this disc should have disappeared, but it did. And we were all down there looking for it, couldn't find it. All of us were stunned. This happens all the time. Anybody who's played disc golf for like 6 months knows what I'm talking about. You throw the disc down there, you go to where you think it landed, and it's not there. And it's not like somebody stole it, but you can't find it. You're together with your card mates, can't find it. 5, 10, 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and you say, the heck with it. And these days, after like 5 minutes, I can't find it, I'm done. But ultimately, most of the time, it's creepy. It is creepy. A couple days later, my phone, I'll hear a little buzz. I'll look at it, and I'll look at a text message, and guess what? There's a picture of my disc, and it has my name, my number on it. And somebody's telling me, I found your disc in a bush today. Do you want it back? So the question is, how was a person who doesn't know me, who doesn't know that I play disc golf, doesn't know that I was there that day, doesn't know what colored disc I threw, doesn't know that I threw it in that bush, how does that person find the disc and I didn't? I'm the one who threw it. I know what the color is. I saw it land. I couldn't find it. Somebody who knew nothing about anything found it. How does that happen? And I can tell you, this isn't some anomaly. This happens all the time. to everybody. Everybody who's ever played disc golf. Doesn't matter what level. How does that happen? And so the only conclusion I can come to, the only thing that makes sense to me, is that at some point, while searching for anything, believing where it is actually becomes an hindrance to finding it. I mean, it's so counterintuitive. It's crazy. I love this. By the way, my mind loves this type of stuff. And what I mean by that is you can't deny what you saw. And yes, you may get down there and you're searching for 5 or 10 minutes and you start thinking, well, maybe that's not what I saw. And you may think about looking 30 feet that way, 30 feet that way, 30 feet, start widening the search. But on the other hand, you can't deny your memory isn't just going to shut off. And your mind starts telling you that's a waste of time to go 30 feet that way or this direction because you saw it land right here. So as much as you want to expand your search area, you can't deny what you saw. And it very well may be, had you expanded your area and gone outside what you think you saw, you would have found your disc. Whereas the person who comes along and doesn't even know you play disc golf, doesn't know anything else, that person is not restricted by anything. He or she is not restricted by their memory because they have no memory. They didn't see the disc fly and land or anything else. So just kind of going about their business, they find the disc. And maybe this could be the reason that so many times when it comes to searches, that dedicated searchers don't find anything, then somebody just randomly walking through the woods does find the remains. It is a mind blower. And it's not something, like I said, I'm not on the fringes of physics or anything else. This is something that is real. That I've talked to other disc golfers about this. Losing discs that you think are right there. And I can remember years ago, a good buddy of mine, his name is Gary Duke, really good disc golf player. In fact, he's really known for throwing discs to dogs. And in fact, he has the world record of throwing a disc and a dog catching it. You can look him up. His name's Gary Duke. Fantastic guy. Great guy. I remember at Maximo on number 2, he threw a disc down there. I saw it land. He saw it land. We went down there and looked for a half hour, could not find it. And we are two very experienced disc golfers. We know that course very well. We've played that basket many, many times. We saw it where it landed, could not find it. And I really don't know if Gary ever did get that disc back, by the way, now that I'm thinking about it. So this is everything that goes through my mind when you start talking about searches and Brianna Maitland and Amar Murray and Jason Landry and everybody else. And maybe we could think about, Eric Pratt had to do it again. Bo Man, allegedly all areas were covered around where Joanna Good lived. Obviously not, because his body was found just a quarter mile away. And keep in mind, I'm talking about a mile radius. Bo Man was found was only a quarter mile away. And still they missed him. Keep saying it. So let me see here. She's possibly, I remember. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, MT. Anytime I can talk about my disc golf analogy, I'm excited. Anytime I can bring disc golf analogy and use it constructively at disappearances, I got to do it. Is there 7 mile the same as 7 miles, or they mean it differently? And any searching is good, but there's also techniques and things to follow. I just mean don't stop searching, like you said, Ed. You never stop searching. But you just don't search for search sake. Is there 7 mile the same as 7? I don't know what you mean by, is there 7 miles same as 7 miles? 7 miles. How many feet that would be? Of course, we're the only people in the United States that use miles. They use kilometers. For anybody out there like Hazel or any Charlene in the metric countries, 7 miles. Is that like 12 kilometers, something like that? Something. It's going to be the same as Bradley Brooks and Jason Landry, Sheree believes. Of course, Sheree knows all about Bradley Brooks from Corpus Christi. She lives near there. Sheree, so many I can't even think of them all right now, but most of the time they're right in the area where they're last known to be. Yeah. So I was late because I was listening to the interview that Nancy did. Oh, Nancy Grace. Yeah. Let's not bring up Nancy Grace too much in the chat, Mary. Hey, so I literally learned that theory from you guys on Unfound. Beforehand, I would have said, oh, but they searched and searched there. I think differently these days. And you should, Hazel. And you should. Sheree, me too, Hazel. Only learned it after following so many disappearances where people have actually been found. Yeah. You know, that's one of those things. We can learn a lot from solved disappearances if anybody cares to do so. The problem is law enforcement does not keep any statistics on that. They keep statistics on why people are murdered and how many are murdered by guns and knives and everything else. They don't keep statistics on how disappearances get solved. So it's no wonder we're still like in the dark ages regarding the investigation of them. I totally see what you mean, dude. You were so smart. I hadn't really thought of stuff that way. Well, it just seems to make a lot of sense to me. And being that I do this is all that I do. This isn't a hobby for me. I think about these things a lot. I have a lot of, I don't have any kids. I don't have a pets. I don't have a girlfriend. So I got a lot of time to think. I think we need a missing 411 disc golf. Oh, come on. You know you'd watch it. Oh, man. David Polides gets involved in disc golf. That would be funny. I love being schooled. Yeah, Mary, that's funny. Sheree, standing out there where Jason Landry went missing, I stopped thinking, why can't they find him, and start thinking how they can find him. It really is a needle in a haystack when you're talking about it. A human in a vast amount of land. Yeah, human isn't very big. I don't care if you're Wilt Chamberlain or Andre the Giant or Robert Ludlow, who was the tallest human to ever live. Very, very, very tiny compared to even just the size of a football field. Ziggy says, like the logic and the hair. Well, I'm not sure which one I want you to like more, Zig, just to be honest. In England, we were miles for sure in my formative years. Yes, they changed over. Mary, yes, they'd be smart about the searching. I don't think they could do 7 miles unless they skip some areas. Right. Yeah. A girlfriend would definitely take up too much time. Yeah, it depends, I guess, on the woman, Hazel. Obey no more Graceland. All right, so that's Brianna Maitland. I have to admit, I'm thinking that she backed into that building all by herself by mistake and then took off. You want to believe it's staged or anything? Maybe one of these days. It's also interesting to me is that the keys are missing. The keys were not left in the car. Okay. All right. Next, I want to read this. Got about half hour. David Hanbury. After disappearing during a conference in Florida, a Virginia professor has been found dead at a popular men's sauna. David Hanbury, 37, was a professor of psychology at Everett University, a private Baptist university in Danville, Virginia. I wonder how the Baptists feel about him being at a men's sauna. He was reported missing late Friday night while attending the Southeastern Psychological Association conference in Orlando. Hanbury was found deceased Saturday at Club Orlando, a famous men's sauna. The law enforcement did not disclose where in the facility. The cause of death has also not been verified, but Orlando police told USA Today that the circumstances did not appear suspicious. The university praised Hanbury's legacy in a Facebook post announcing his passing, referring to him as a beloved faculty member who had a lasting impact on those around him. It is with a heavy heart that we share the heartbreaking update of the passing of Dr. David Hanbury. On behalf of the entire Everett community, we send our condolences and prayers of support to Dr. Hanbury's family. Hanbury's brother, JJ, this is interesting, said in another post to Facebook that his brother was, quote unquote, not a partier, and that his family became concerned after he had not returned their calls nor reached out to their mother who JJ said Hanbury usually spoke to multiple times. Again, today we're all a day. We're all struggling, and this is so hard. I've never been through anything like this. I don't know what I'm going to do without my youngest brother that drove me insane all the time, but my world will never be the same without him. He was only 37 and supposed to be with me for life. A vigil was held for Hanbury Monday on Averett Student Center lawn. Franks wrote, as we grieve as one family, we invite the campus and surrounding area to join together for a time of prayer and support. It's very sad, first of all. All right, let's just get that out of the way. But on the other hand, side of this, this is once again, I, of course, have nothing against gay people. This sounds like a place where gay men go to meet. Fine by me. As long as it's all, people allowed to make their own choices and nobody's being forced to end anything. I don't care. Don't care. I also know, though, that, when it comes to people on vacations, given that I lived in Las Vegas for 13 and a half years, a lot of people do things in Vegas or other places that they would never do in their own communities. And this just sounds to me like some misadventure here. Whether we'll ever know what killed him, or it very well may be that he had some sort of heart issue that was unknown. We may think of something like John Ritter, famous John Ritter, of course, from Three's Company, fantastic guy and everything. He was fine. Then just one day he's on the set of, what was it? 10 Rules for Dating My Daughter, whatever it was. And he didn't necessarily have a heart attack, but he had a defect that nobody knew about, no way to tell, and his aorta disconnected from his heart, and he bled to death internally. Freak thing, although it has happened to other people. And so this is something that comes to my mind. Unfortunately, though, what also comes to my mind is, did this guy maybe take his vacation a little too crazy? Did he get in there, met some people, and met some guys, and they might, nothing necessarily hardcore illegal, but what if they had some uppers or speed or, ecstasy or something like that? You never know when something like that can go wrong. And, especially if this guy, 37 years old, is thinking, you know what? I'm out of town. I'm on vacation. I'd like to meet somebody and do this and do that. All fine by me. I don't care. But you really got to watch this stuff if you take it too far. I don't know if this could have been predicted or not, but just some sort of, freak thing. But this was it was in the news, and people were wondering, well, how does this guy go missing? Well, here's what I think I know. Surely David Hanbury didn't tell anybody he was going there. Maybe he was out, fine by me once again. But, I don't know the gay community that well, but I don't know how many gay men really go to the places like that. I don't know. So this is very sad. But death, I guess, by misadventure. I guess. Kathy says that John Ritter, 8-step rules. Thank you, Kathy. So if you didn't know, if you'd heard about the disappearance of this professor, 37-year-old that was in Orlando, he was found dead in a gay sauna. Okay. He had a heart attack there or something. So there you go. Let me see what everybody is now saying. Oh, wow. At a men's sauna. Yep, Hazel. 10 more likes and we were close to a record for the year. Yeah, 10 more likes. Who's in here? 10 more likes. Can we get there in the next 25 minutes? I need to look up and refresh myself on Brianna Maitland. You do that, Mary. Emily, does anybody think Brianna's boyfriend was involved? Jada, if the boyfriend was involved, he passed away in 2019 in a car accident. Wow. Oh, not the same prof I was thinking, Hazel. Emily, yes, Jada, that is very unfortunate. Part of her was involved. I personally don't think it was the boyfriend, Jada said, but there's a couple of other people that are on my radar. Okay, Jada. Sure, Emily, I think she went there to meet someone else. Emily, I totally agree. That is what I was thinking. Highly likely that he was there as well. But about the idea of her meeting somebody there, they checked the phone records from the apartment and where she worked, and there were no calls. Okay, Hazel, what do you think happened to Brianna? Jada, John Ritter, yeah, great minds think alike. Emily, I don't think her boyfriend was involved, Charlotte says. Okay. So this, regarding Dr. David Hanbury, we just have to remember this. If we run into any disappearances where people go missing on vacation, in fact, I know just within the last couple days, I've seen a news story about, I forget her name now, but the woman who disappeared from the cruise ship. And then it was rumored she was seen as a sex slave in the Caribbean islands. And I know somebody's going to post her name in there. Just have to remember that people do things on vacation that they would normally not do at home. Whether it has to do with drinking or drugs or expressing their sexuality, maybe a sexuality that other people didn't know about, whether no matter what we're talking about, or going to a swingers club or whatever, couples going, seeming pretty monogamous in hometown USA, but then instead they go to hedonism too. Where's that, Jamaica or whatever it is? Look at me, and they do something different. People do things when they're outside of town. So anytime we are thinking about, about disappearances, somebody goes on vacation and goes missing, we must consider the idea that they chose to do something they wouldn't have done in their hometown. Something risky, something that they might not want other people to know about. I think this is a very reasonable idea with that kind of disappearance, because once again, this is something that hits me. All right, I'm going to get into a few unfound news items, and then I got one more, international news item that I will use to finish out tonight's live show. The Ashley Jones Linden poll. The question I simply asked in the discussion group and in the think tank was, how sure are you that is Ashley in that photo? Hopefully everybody has had a chance to look at that photo. And an overwhelming percentage of you said probably not. There weren't very few straight no's, but overwhelmingly, like 90% of the people said probably not. And that's kind of the way it went in the think tank as well. And for the blog that I wrote at patreon.com/unfound podcast, I came to the conclusion that is not Ashley in the picture as well. And I have to say that I surely believe her disappearance started on September 9th of 2022. So that was the Ashley Jones Linden poll. Of course, that's a disappearance in the Tampa area. And had I been down there for the coverage of it when it came out, maybe I could have gone over there and gotten some more pictures or whatever. But of course, I've been in Pennsylvania for the last 3 weeks. Moving on, I know, Charlotte, you are in here. There you are, Charlotte. I took Charlotte's suggestion, and the next Unfound now will be coming out within the next few days. And it's going to be the disappearance of Tyler Goodrich, who went missing way back in November, but it still qualifies as an Unfound now. He was a gay man. He was married, and he and his man had adopted 2 children. And after his husband called 911, Tyler seemingly, allegedly, and there's video of this, ran off into the night never to be seen again. So, of course, there are people maybe have said maybe that's not Tyler in the video. So that is going to be in the next Unfound now. It's already done, and I will be releasing it within the next few days. If that is something, a disappearance that you've not heard about, maybe you want to do a little Google search for it. Prepare yourself for when I do make the Unfound video available to the public. Let's see what everybody's saying here. Amy Bradley, thank you. Yes, she is the one who disappeared from the cruise ship. Thank you, Rachel B. Rockford, I worked for a professional services firm for years. Would have an annual conference out of town. The behavior of upstanding attorneys was, wow, mostly funny, usually cringy, always amateur hour. Yeah, so Rockford knows what I'm saying. Jadis, she could have made plans. Are you talking about Brianna? Right. Everyone likes Ed's hair. Yeah, everyone, Valerie, everyone but my father and my ex-girlfriend, Suzanne. Everybody else thinks it's fine. Jada, I believe she was followed. There was a report of a white truck down the street. All right, so that's going back to Brianna Maitland. Charlotte, I think it was something to do with the girl that punched her because she was going to court for the fight. All right, so there we go. Jada, I believe it's once again Brianna Maitland theories. Hazel, thanks. Emily is also saying Amy Bradley was the woman who disappeared from the cruise ship. I happen to believe she went overboard. Tyler Goodrich, Hazel, Goodrich. Shri, another one where he will be found in close proximity. Again, only my opinion, Shri. I agree with you regarding Tyler Goodrich. I totally agree with you. You're welcome, Charlotte. Thank you for giving me the suggestion. That put it on my radar. It was a good one to do. Thank you. Jade, as far as the interaction with her mother, Brianna, her father talked about this on a podcast. She probably went out to smoke a cigarette and she was hiding that from her mother. It's open to interpretation. Okay. Hazel, to be honest, I prefer the shorter hair of year before. That's okay, Hazel. You're allowed to have your opinion. Moving on to some other Unfound stuff. Unfortunately, I have another guest death to report, and I just found out on Saturday, even though this woman died last summer. You will remember the disappearance of Shelva Rafte, R-A-F-T-E. That's a disappearance that happened here in Pennsylvania. You remember her two sisters, Joanne and Shirley, were the guests. I actually spoke to Shirley this weekend on the phone, and she alerted me that Joanne actually died last summer. So, I'm not sure how many guests are now deceased. I'm going to have to do a count. I think we're up to, unfortunately, double digits now. So, Joanne Decker, sister of Shelva Rafte, she died last summer. And Shirley also told me that her husband also died since the last time I spoke to Shirley. So, Joanne Decker, she was the woman I originally talked to regarding Shelva's disappearance. And Shirley kind of came in. Of course, I interviewed both of them. So I got to know Joanne pretty well. And I was shocked when Shirley told me that. So there you go. Another Unfound guest deceased. I hope Joanne can rest in peace. Yesterday, Flight 370, Jeff Wise from the Deep Dive Flight 370 podcast interviewed me, and I think that I'm going to be on there this Thursday. Pretty sure. I'm not going to reveal what we talked about. You'll just have to tune in. But Jeff and I get along real well, and I enjoy talking to him. We talk quite a bit through email. I have a lot of insights using my disappearance experience to talk about Flight 370. And I guess I'm, fairly critical. I try to be constructive when I send him information, and I think he really respects that. And we had an excellent conversation yesterday morning. So if you're not yet listening to it, this will give you a reason to listen to his podcast. It's called Deep Dive, and it's on Spotify, iTunes, and everywhere. This coming Thursday, 1:30 Eastern Time, I will be zooming into a journalism class at Texas A&M University to talk about journalism, to talk about podcasting, how to get into podcasting, what is podcasting, how to go about doing it and everything. So I'm going to be talking to this bunch of college students about podcasting, not about disappearances, although disappearances certainly going to come up. But that's going to be fun on Thursday afternoon. It's going to be very similar to the presentation I did at Largo High School last November. But instead of high school students, these will be college students. And I'll just be right here doing the Zoom. So I really appreciate the professor. Her name is Nancy. She contacted me, and I am very excited about that. And then the final Unfound news that I should go over. There's going to be a new Found episode for all of you Patreon and YouTube supporters, by the way. I haven't figured out which Found disappearance I'm going to feature yet. I'll figure it out. But Jason Landry, of course, we talked about him a couple times tonight. He is, they are searching for him once again. They're out there in the Luling area once again searching for him. I think this happened this past weekend. To my knowledge, they didn't find anything. So let's Mr. MT, sadly, I think suicide is the most likely with Tyler. Could be. I'm kind of leaning more toward the elements got to him, MT, which I explained in the video. Emily Jada, that could be right. You're welcome. I researched Brianna's case for years. Shri, yay. Everyone gives a thumbs up that's here. Thank you all so much. Yeah, thank you. Finally, we got to that number. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Hazel Jada, case once again on Brianna. That's so sad, Ed. Yeah, Joanne, yeah. Yeah, super cool, Ed. Yes, going to be on there. Gig'em. Gig'em? What does that mean, Shri? Gig'em. Do you think Amy Bradley went overboard on purpose or accident? I think she went over by accident, Emily. By the way, Amy Bradley's disappearance is one of those that was featured on the true crime podcast I did before Unfound started. Hers, Jody Husentrutz, the girl, last name was Peltoff, I think. We did hers. We did the disappearance of a guy who allegedly went missing while diving up in the panhandle of Florida. We had Jody Husentrut. How many episodes did we have before we called it quits? 5 or 6 episodes? But Amy Bradley's was one of those. I have good news to share. I'm going to be a great grandmother. Oh my gosh. My granddaughter's due April 8th. My baby's girl. I will look at you, Charlotte. Congratulations to Charlotte. Look at you. Yeah, excited. Did she jump overboard? She actually fell overboard or someone was there, her overboard. My son needs to start procreating, Hazel said. Oh my goodness. Look what, yeah, Roxine Peltoff. Thank you, Rachel. Yes, Peltoff. Right. Rockford says, we have to get those episodes of your old show. Are they on cassette or 8-track? Rockford, I'm not going to talk about that. Not going to even mention the name of it. All right, one more story before we get to this Friday's disappearance, and that is the disappearance of Sebastian Rogers. Man, my voice is really feeling it tonight. The mother of a missing teen, Sebastian Rogers, said she heard a noise, quote unquote, coming from her teen son's room on the night he disappeared from his bedroom. Although it's been a month since Sebastian vanished from his family home in Hendersonville, Tennessee, the search continues for the teenager who is believed to have wandered off in the middle of the night barefoot with a flashlight and alone. The 15-year-old was last seen by his family on the night of February 25th, so we're now coming up. It's been a month. But when his mother went to wake him up the following morning, Sebastian was gone. Sebastian, who has high-functioning autism, has been previously described by his mother as being very smart and not a mischievous child by any means. Leading up to his disappearance, his mother told the YouTube channel Chronicles of Olivia in an interview that her family's having a normal day filled with laughter, eating a colossal amount of popcorn, and a trip around town. Her son took out the trash at the end of the driveway, as was his usual chore, and then around 9 p.m., he was told to go to bed. He was doing something in his room because about an hour later, I heard some noise, and I was like, I don't care what you're doing in there, but go to sleep, Kate. It's like every parent out there. Katie Proudfoot, Mr. Rogers' mother, recalled to the channel. At 6 o'clock, I went to wake him up for school, and that he wasn't there. Ms. Proudfoot scanned the entire house. As she said, it's typical for him to get up and rummage for snacks or will dip behind the walls and playfully scare her. I didn't see him in his room. I looked all over. I ran through a whole house. I looked out all the doors and windows, and I was like hollering his name. I jumped in my car. I drove around the neighborhood. I drove over the school. Like at this point, I was like hysterical. I was crying. I was screaming. It was at that point that her husband phoned law enforcement. 20 days later, we still haven't found him. Her mother and stepfather described him as not a child that wanders and is a very smart, functional, happy person, just a teenager who's coming into his hormones. A massive search for the teenager was launched by the Sumner County Sheriff's Office, which lasted about a week before it was scaled back as they transitioned to investigate the investigative side of the case. With detectives adding they have no reason to believe Sebastian isn't alive. The couple were asked by the podcast about the home security footage obtained by WTVF that appears to show 2 flashlights outside the family's home in the Hendersonville neighborhood around 3:10 a.m. in the middle of the night when the teen went missing. One clip shows a pitch black Stafford Court neighborhood with 2 lights that appear to be people with flashlights moving toward each other before moving off screen. However, Sebastian's stepfather, Chris Proudfoot, told Chronicles of Olivia that nothing that is being assumed right now is actually true about that video, unfortunately. He said that his parents, they saw the footage firsthand from law enforcement. Everything that everybody's trying to assume is a flashlight. I hate to say this, but it's not. As much as we'd love it to be one, it's not. The Tennessee Bureau of Investigation said in a recent update that we caution that some surveillance video being shared in the public may have been misinterpreted or misidentified or not shown in its entirety, but did not specify any particular videos. The couple added that nothing has been eliminated from the investigation into their son's disappearance. Everything got out and walked away and was outside of the search radius before he started searching to the worst, said his mother, and added that she is not trying to go down that road of thought. We're going to find him, Ms. Proudfoot said. We just know he's out there somewhere. Let's see what everybody's saying before I get into this. Mary says, I love me some babies. I miss me some too. And my son's 17. I know my memories I have. Charlotte, I think the mother and stepfather are involved in Sebastian. Wow. Look at you, Charlotte, coming in hard with that, Charlotte. In Sebastian's case, I see, Charlotte. I'm not sure what I think anymore, Charlotte. Yes, Charlotte, congrats. Okay, everybody's congratulating Charlotte. Thunderbird, I agree, Charlotte. If you listen to his bio, dad interview, very interesting. All right, Thunderbird, how about you? Good to see you tonight. All right, so before I was even finished with the article, Charlotte's saying, you know what? I think we need to consider that the parents are involved. Of course, the issue with this is that, once again, I am certainly not an autism expert, but we do know that this adds in a certain degree of uncertainty in everything. That, of course, we know that people who are autistic, they, of course, depending on the degree of their autism, they just, the way they process information is different than the rest of us. And so my guess is Sebastian's behavior and choices would be maybe a little different. Of course, we do know that teenagers sneak off all the time. And maybe even some of us, although I never did that, but of course, because I grew up in the middle of nowhere. But, if you live in a neighborhood, houses really close to each other, and, Some teenage boy might sneak out to see some teenage girl, and they can do this and never get caught. And then some people get caught. And of course, we do know there are situations where, in particular, girls have snuck out of their houses or sneaked out, meeting the wrong guy, and then they disappear or are murdered. Of course, this has happened. But for a 15-year-old boy to sneak out, it happens. But what are the odds that this ends up in some sort of murder? Well, the issue is that we do have a disappearance like this in Unfound Zone catalog that was solved, and that was Devin Bond. He wasn't autistic, but he did sneak out. He took the family gun. We know he went no more than a mile away, shot himself. And this is once again, one of those situations. First couple searches didn't find him. Then a search did find him. And this very well could have been over a girl that he was interested in. Maybe he had some other things going on. But I will tell you, when I think about his disappearance, and you should know, I've never spoken to his mother since he was found. So, but the way I remember it was that this occurred right after he was interested in some girl. And then the parents said that she couldn't see Devin. Couldn't see Devin anymore. So this is something that I think this is a theory that might be open to with Sebastian. And of course, Sebastian being autistic, I don't know how he, maybe he might handle a rejection from someone even worse than somebody who doesn't have autism would. This is something that I have to be open to. Of course, we also might think that, was he getting groomed somehow? Was he out there somewhere and there was some adult who was talking to him and lured him out of the house that night? Certainly possible. What I'd need to know more about is that how exactly could they determine how he was dressed? Of course, if he was dressed and it looks like he put on a coat and pants and shoes and everything, then this sounds to me a situation where he planned on coming back. Whereas if we were to find out that he just went out in his pajamas or less, then I have to start thinking that this is like a one-way trip. And the question is, could that be determined from what was left behind? I think that his parents would be able to tell what clothes are there and what clothes are missing, even if it's just a pair of shoes. Certainly a pair of shoes, you'd be able to say, well, you know what? The shoes he usually wears to school aren't here. He must have put them on, which once again would lead me to believe that he was planning on coming back and didn't. But shoes worn, Hazel said. So I have to believe then when he left, he thought he was coming back. Mary says, I'm not sure. I heard the bio dad interview and then the mom done by same person. Very different interview formats. Emily, I watched the mom and stepdad's interview with Nancy Grace. The stepdad was out of town in Memphis. The mom was home alone with her dogs and Sebastian. They didn't have an alarm or video system. That's curious. Yes, so far the circumstances or evidence on facts that I know about, they don't point me exactly toward the parents. In all seriousness, you need to follow Gig'em before you speak at A&M. Oh, is that right? Thank you for letting me know, Sheree. Okay, Gig'em. All right. Charlotte, would a 15-year-old walk out of the house barefoot? Maybe. Charlotte, Emmy, I think the mom and dad were lying and that they were involved. Just read confirmation. There were no shoes. No shoes. I was reminded today of Boy in the Basement case. I believe it was called. Really made me think. Shoes were worn, Hazel saying. Emily, I mean the mom and stepdad. Sorry, no shoes worn. Right. All right. So no shoes worn. That's a bad sign. Emily, it could be. I don't know what to think, really, Shard. I'm interested to see if the stepdad takes the polygraph as Nancy offered. Yeah, if it's true that this kid was not wearing shoes when he left, that's a bad sign for sure. Now, why? The question is, why didn't he wear his shoes? What he took with him and what he left is telling an Erie. He should take that poly, though. Okay. All right. So that is Sebastian. We'll try Sebastian's disappearance, Sebastian Rogers' disappearance, and we'll try to keep tabs on that. All right. This Friday, it's going to be a little bit deja vu. Jaden Carpenter. This is a disappearance that's very much like Ashley Jones Linden's. In fact, they disappeared within a month of each other, whether you think that Ashley disappeared in September of 2022 or November of 2022. Jaden disappeared in October of 2022. In addition, both young women, and in addition, both of them went way downhill after their fathers died. The thing is, though, my opinion, it seems like Jaden's disappearance probably is a little more, although it's certainly the same type of circumstances. I think Jaden's is at least a little more straightforward than Ashley's is. And we don't have a photo to talk about with Jaden's disappearance. She went missing from Tennessee, Columbia, Tennessee in October of 2022. And this is a situation where, once again, wrapped up with the wrong guy. And what allegedly happened was that she was with this guy and she called an ex of hers. She wanted this guy to come pick her up because she said she was leaving her boyfriend. And before the conversation ended on Snapchat, they got shut off or cut off. And he tried to Snapchat her back, couldn't reach her. Jaden never heard from again. And the story that Jaden's boyfriend says is, he gave her, she said she wanted to go get something to eat. And she did. She came back and then she texted him saying, you know what? I'm done with you. I'm taking off. I left the car and I'm out of here. And that is his story. And of course, we have to remember this disappearance is only a year and a half old. And I interviewed Jaden's sister, Vanna, and Vanna did a spectacular interview. All right. Everybody's still talking about Sebastian. All right. Very good. Oh, no, not another. The guy said. Yes, Hazel. Another the guy said. Mary says the no shoes part. It seems he took nothing else. It's been a month. I worry about this outcome, though, like many others. Between parents or somebody he knew well, period. Okay, Mary. So that's all I got for tonight. Man, my voice has had it. My voice does not feel good at all. So we're getting out of here. I'm overtime anyway. Thank you all. Great. Man, we had some great discussion going on. One of the best chat rooms I think we've ever had on a live show. And I really did try to cover everything tonight. I really did. I think I got to everything that I promised. I'm feeling really good about myself as I leave you tonight. Thank you so much. Give this video a thumbs up. Subscribe to this channel. You'll all hear me on Friday. Keep your heads on swivels. And I hope all of you have a great week. And Charlie, say hi to the boys for me. Maybe I'll talk to your mother tomorrow. And Lisa, thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Thank you for that contribution right there at the end of the live show. Thank you. Good night.